Good evening and welcome to the second and final series of forums with candidates for office for this November 4th election that is being brought to you by Cuddy Community College and co-hosted by The Citizen. I'm your moderator, Guy Cosentino. On November 4th, voters in the City of Auburn will go to the polls to vote for two candidates for the Auburn City Council. The current incumbents, Cuddy and Ginny are being challenged by Craig Diego and Joe Villano, and all four have agreed to be in the studio right now for the next hour and a half for a forum. The City Council is made up of a mayor and four members of council that are elected at large. Currently, all of the council has Democratic Party registration of the seats that are there. Members are elected for four-year terms. Representing the press today in our studio, as always, is Robert Harding, the political reporter for The Citizen. Mr. Harding will be asking the questions of the candidates for about 70 minutes. Prior to the taping of the show, the candidates drew lots to see what order they would be given their 2-minute openings, and that will be reversed at the end of the forum for their closing statements. Our candidates who are sitting in the order of their draws are Joseph Villano, who's on the Republican, Conservative, and People's Voice lines, Ginny, who is on the Democratic Working Families Party, Craig Diego, who is on the Republican, Conservative, and People's Voice Party, and Terry Cuddy, who's on the Democratic and Working Families parties. Welcome to all of you to the studio. Thank you for doing this. We're going to start with your 2-minute statements, as we said, and then we'll get into the rules with Mr. Harding. So up first is Joe Villano, who is on the Republican, Conservative, and Working Families lines. Welcome.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to thank Guy for doing this and Robert for doing this and the candidates here for coming. I'm Joe Villano. I'm a retired police officer with the City of Auburn. I currently work through the police department as an SPO and a school resource officer. I spent 8 years of my career as a local 195 union president, which gave me the opportunity to negotiate labor contracts with the city. I'm endorsed by the 3 labor unions in the City of Auburn, Auburn Police Department, Auburn Fire Department, and CSCA city workers. I'm a lifelong Auburn resident. My kids are growing up here. I've owned businesses here, and I've coached several local youth sports teams in the community. Generations of my family have lived in Auburn and owned businesses here. I'm fortunate enough to live and work in this community. I want Auburn to be a desirable place to live and raise a family. Citizens of Auburn want to be safe, comfortable, and live affordable. The relationships I've built within the community, along with my life experience and personal attributes, would make me a productive and effective member of the council. I think it's time for a new perspective and a fresh set of eyes to lead us, and if elected, I look forward to the opportunity to serve the citizens of Auburn.
Thank you, Mr. Villano. We'll now hear from Ginny, who's on the Democratic and Working Families Party line. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you to Mr. Cosentino and to Mr. Harding, the Citizen, Cuddy Community College, for making this forum possible today. I'm glad to be here. I'm running for a second term on City Council, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. Let me first reintroduce myself. My husband and I have lived in this city we love for 30 years and raised our family here. My work experience includes administrative positions in education and nonprofits. I ran the Leadership Cuddy program here for several years, and through that experience, I had the benefit of observing how the many institutions in our city and county operate and how they change over time. I served on the school board for 2 terms, and I was the trustee at Seymour Library. During my first term in office, I'm proud of many accomplishments the city has made. I want to mention the Auburn Police Department receiving a certificate of accreditation from the New York State Law Accreditation Program after a rigorous multi-year process. That should instill confidence and pride in our police department. I'm also proud of the new City of Auburn Ambulance Department, which opened 4 years ago and has been making a huge difference in services provided and in response times. And I'm tremendously pleased with the success of the new summer rec program, which has brought a new level of engagement to Auburn's youth. I have to mention the modernization of our wastewater treatment plant, which positions us well for the future and holds a value to businesses looking to expand or locate in this community. While Auburn has much to be thankful for, there's always more work to be done. Protecting Owasco Lake and ensuring safe drinking water well into the future, planning for Micron, and updating the city's comprehensive plan are just a few that come to mind. As your city councilor, I will work hard to make sure these challenges are met and continue to move Auburn forward along the exciting and positive path that we have forged. Thank you, and please vote for me on November 4th.
Thank you, Councilor. We'll now hear from Craig Diego, who's on the Republican, Conservative, and People's Voice line. Welcome, Mr. Diego.
I appreciate it. I'd like to thank Mr. Cosentino, Mr. Harding, all the candidates that came here today and college for holding the event. A little bit about myself. I'm Craig Diego. Appreciate this opportunity to be in the forum today. I'm a lifelong resident of Auburn. Been here 30 plus years with my wife and children. We've raised 3 children here. United States Army veteran, 3 years active duty. I then worked for over 22 years for the New York State Department of Corrections Community Supervision. Retired as a captain from Auburn Correctional in 2016. In 2017, I opened a small business in the City of Auburn, which I still own and operate, Diego's Uppercuts Barbershop. Been a registered independent 36 plus years of my life. Never changed political parties. Have no aspiration to do it anytime soon. I do have the Republican and Conservative endorsements as well. I made the decision to stay in the City of Auburn and raise my family here, but I think that the city can do better. That's why I'm running. Main reasons I'm running for City Council are the never-ending increases in the property taxes and fees like water, sewer, and garbage, and the overall deteriorating conditions of the city neighborhoods and our roadways. The City Council has continually raised the property taxes and fees to the point people can no longer afford to stay in their homes. I've had the opportunity to meet many of you while I was doing my door-to-door campaign of every house in the city this summer, and the common theme has been the same. Auburn residents are literally getting taxed out of their homes. It's also a lost opportunity for the youth of our community, being that many of them leave and cannot afford to return because of the taxes and fees. This year's road program had approximately $4.3 million available, but we only paved 5 roads this year, one being North Street that was actually labeled as a failing street in March, yet we just decided to add it on at the end of August. The city paid out $16,294 in car damage claims this year due to the roads. Being that we pay an extreme amount of taxes and fees, we'd like to at least have the services provided and have the roads taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diego. We'll now hear from Councilor Cuddy, who is on the Democratic and Working Families Party line. Mr. Cuddy, welcome.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Robert, and the CCC Telecom Department for your warm hospitality. As a proud alumnus of the Telecom Department, it's a privilege to return and share my experience as a city councilor. I'd also like to thank my fellow candidates for this opportunity to talk about the issues that are important to the people of Auburn. Together with Ginny Kent, we have built a record we are proud of. As a vocational teacher at Uganda-Bosi's and a council member, I take great pride in my commitment to public service. My current top priorities should be reelected include water quality, ensuring every household has access to safe, clean water. My second priority, affordable services, keeping taxes and fees manageable while upholding essential city services. We currently are diligently balancing Auburn's budget through careful oversight. Economic development. Third, supporting local businesses and attracting new investments to Auburn. Long-term planning is crucial for our future. As a representative of the Auburn Industrial Development Authority, my goal is to draw in business. With our new city manager and Micron's impending establishment in central New York, Auburn's economic prospects are bright. We have successfully secured grants for redevelopment initiatives and witnessed growth among local businesses. In closing, our city faces challenges from ideologies that seek to undermine trust in local government. I am committed to preserving this trust and shielding Auburn from negative influences, ensuring our city remains stable and strong.
Thank you, Mr. Cuddy. Thank you all for your opening statements. As we had set the ground rules before, we have a student with us, Jake, who is timing you. He timed your opening statement, so time everything through your closing statements. He will raise up a sign when you have 30 seconds left, and then he will raise another sign to say you're done, and then I will say you're done. But he will not do that. We are joined by Mr. Harding, who can ask questions of all of you or individuals. As we said at the beginning, we'll go in rotation as fits for everyone, and then keep going down the line. If you would like to respond after you have spoken and someone else has spoken and want to respond, please let me know, and we will give you a minute as a follow-up. We'll do that once or twice per question if we need to, but otherwise we try to keep the flow going. Mr. Harding, welcome back.
Thanks, Guy, and thanks to all the candidates for participating today. Wanted to start with a focus on the budget. There is agreement among the candidates that the city faces various budget challenges. However, there is disagreement on how those issues should be addressed. How should the city approach balancing budgets that preserve important city services while minimizing the burden on residents?
And that's for all candidates?
All the candidates.
Mr. Villano, you're up first, and then we'll go from there. You have 2 minutes.
Well, the two things that are going to help our budget is obviously the tax base and sales tax. To improve the tax base, I believe that we have to improve our affordable housing. We need more people coming into the city and buying homes to build up that tax base, which would lower the taxes and the tax burden on the citizens that are feeling it today. Obviously, economic development would help if we brought in more businesses to improve tax base or retaining and expanding the current businesses that we have. I believe that if we improve the affordable housing, we get more people owning their homes, increasing that tax base, it would help the current situation that we're dealing with now with the tax levy.
Thank you. Councilor Kent, you have 2 minutes on this, on the issue of the budget.
Well, the main revenue we get to cover the costs for the city are obviously property taxes, and we also have fees. We have sales tax, we have now the bed tax, we now have the legal sale of cannabis in the city. These provide us with additional revenue to cover the cost of the very rapidly growing cost of providing the services that we offer throughout the city. So in the last year, we saw double-digit increase in the cost of road salt, for instance. So if that happens in the middle of a fiscal year, you still have to pay for it. So we looked very carefully at ways that we can move through the year, checking on a monthly basis and seeing what's coming up, what's coming ahead, and how we can stay within our budget, but find the funds to make emergency repairs and that kind of thing. And we're working very closely with our comptroller and with our new city manager, Ginny Haynes. I believe that the combination of the property tax and the fees go a long way. The fees really reflect the cost of the service. We don't make any profit on it. None of us go home with extra money. We can't invest it. The money really just covers the cost of running the city. I agree with my colleague here that we need to have more property that we can charge property tax for. And we're working hard through economic development and housing initiatives to bring more people and more businesses into the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Diego, on this issue of the budget.
My first suggestion would be that we would start the budget process a little earlier and dedicate time at every city council meeting speaking on the budget so that we don't end up having to make rash decisions right at the very end of it come beginning of June. Usually the budget's approved mid-June, give or take. They definitely should have more time to work on it. I know they put a lot of effort into it, but we should actually probably start it as soon as the beginning of the year comes, not just with the other entities coming in and giving their proposed budgets. This is something that could start much earlier. I would also take and compare this year's budget with budgets from the last 4 or 5 years and see which line item expenditures went up the most so we can be a little more efficient and effective in government. You have to take a really hard look. A lot of people don't want to do that. Nobody wants to be the person that's going to say, maybe we should cut back on this part, maybe we should not spend this much here or there, but that's what needs to be done. When you start talking about saving taxes and fees for the people in the city of Auburn, that's where it's going to start. We always have to pay for the services provided. Nobody's going to actually say that that's wrong. I don't think anybody sitting up here today is going to say, no, that's not part of how the city works. But bringing in more revenue for the city, like Joe was stating and Mrs. Kent, about the housing. There's close to 200 houses, I believe, that aren't on the market at this point. There should be programs available to sell those houses, especially to somebody in the community do a vetting process so we don't have landlords that have violations and things among that. You want good homeowners, people in the community would be the best. They take a vested interest if it was actually in their own neighborhood. That's probably going to be the biggest part of it. I'm not convinced on the Micron project yet because it's been going on for many years and they haven't put a shovel in the ground yet. It would be great if that would help the City of Auburn, but it's not going to be anytime soon because it's not even started being built yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diego. Councilor Cuddy on this issue of the city budget and finances.
As indicated, this budget was very difficult, this past budget. And I do believe that the city had to make some difficult choices and making cuts for some of our services. I know that we had to cut some of our part-time labor over the summer. Obviously, there's been some, there's more oversight of everyday purchases. So it's been difficult for some of the staff to have to really watch this. But obviously, we need to bring in more revenue. And one of the things that I feel that we are doing is putting a positive face on the City of Auburn. If you look downtown, and I know downtown isn't the indication of everything, but there is a lot of new business, small business starting up in downtown. This was by plan. This is part of the planning that went into our comprehensive plan years ago, and it's come to fruition. What I want to do is continue that kind of upbeat presentation of what Auburn is and can be. Besides the downtown revitalization, there's promise of Bombardier having some kind of activity, new development. And that is something that, being on the Auburn Industrial Development Authority and the City of Auburn already helping whomever the new developer is going to end up being, have some financial assistance, incentive to develop that property and bring jobs to Auburn. And as Mr. Villano said, increasing the tax base I think is important. We have initiatives to have market housing, affordable housing, and I do think that Auburn's best days are ahead of us.
Thank you, Mr. Cuddy. We'll start with Mr. Villano, then Mr. Diego. You'll each have 1 minute.
When I hit on the tax base with the city-owned property, currently I believe we have about 92 houses that the city owns in that area. 92, the number changes all the time here. I believe if we can get more of an incentive for our public safety workers, police, fire, city, because we are allowed to live outside the city now. We have to draw them back in to build up these neighborhoods. I think Terry and Ginny did a great job with, in the past, council done a great job with downtown. We have to look at these outside downtown. We need these neighborhoods built up. And if we build these neighborhoods, people will come and buy these houses in these areas. And I believe if we give an incentive to bring back these city workers, I think, a majority of our police officers live outside the city. Try to draw these younger guys back in to live in the city.
All right, thank you, Mr. Villano. Mr. Diego?
Yeah, speaking of the downtown, yeah, it actually looks outstanding. Everybody loves the flower pots. You got statues, paintings. One part that I would want to touch on would be the Shines Theater and Hunter's Diner. That's something that it's time to make a decision and either move on from it or do something with it. It's been year after year after year. Shines Theater is actually at this point, obviously it's a historic building, but it's an eyesore at this point. It's got to be 10, 15 years and it's still sitting there vacant. Hunter's Diner, they deemed it unsafe now. I'm not sure why we got back involved with that. If it was unsafe, should have been inspected in the first place before we got involved with that. Many businesses have left this past year. We definitely need to bring as much as we can in, but when you continue to have a higher tax base and fees, businesses can't sustain that, and that's why they're not coming in. Hence, 2 or 3 of the businesses right in downtown within a few months all left. We have to lower the taxes for everybody in the city and fees so that people want to actually come and have businesses here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diego. Mr. Cuddy, you have 1 minute as well.
Yes, I just want to respond The Shines Theater and Hunter's Dinerot are definitely buildings that we would like to see developed. And, we're trying to reach out to developers to do that. But obviously, this is something that the city can't develop ourselves. So we are looking for investors to see the promise in those buildings as we are. But to go back to the question of, outside of the city, the downtown, I see much promise on the West End with West End Rising, the West End Arts Campus that has arisen, some of the development in the Bluefield area that is promised. So there is positive movement on housing in this city, and we want to make sure that we are prepared and showing developers that we are ready to work with them and to increase their housing opportunities.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cuddy.
Oh,
You have a minute if you wish.
I would love to have, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Then we'll go to the next question.
Yes. So I agree with what Mr. Cuddy just said about the Shine Theater and Hunters. I want to mention that businesses close for a lot of different reasons, and every business has its own story. So I wouldn't characterize, businesses closing as an indication necessarily that downtown is failing. I've enjoyed a lot of new businesses that have opened up there in the last 5 years. Word gets out. I recently met with an executive director from a nonprofit that was just hired, and this person was amazed by the amount of energy, not just downtown, but out at Prison City and different places, and she didn't realize how conveniently we are to the other cities, Syracuse and Rochester. So we're a place that people are discovering, and so I just want to, I don't mind the negative, nothing's perfect, but I just want to balance that a little bit. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harding.
All righty. Shifting gears to Auburn City Ambulance, next year will mark 5 years since the creation of the city-run ambulance service. Like other departments in city government, there is a cost associated with running this agency. However, it is being used. Calls are increasing every year, and the city has entered into agreements with other towns to provide ambulance service. What is your assessment of Auburn City Ambulance, and should the city continue this municipal service?
Councilor Kent, you're up first.
Sure, thank you. So the City of Auburn Ambulance Department started about 4 years ago, and today is an integral part of our emergency services located in the municipal building on Market Street. The ambulance now contracts services in the towns of Owasco and Springport in addition to Auburn. And they're on tap to bring in, I believe I heard about $3 million in income this year to cover the cost of the service. The ambulance came about because previously there were private companies running ambulance services, and a private company has to make a profit. So it was difficult for them to meet all the calls. There's actually more money made if you want to transport someone to Syracuse from Auburn than necessarily to go out to a call where there may not be any follow-up. So it was a difficult decision, but it came in with a lot of planning, and Keziah Sullivan's done a great job as the director. Today we have a fleet of about 6, 4 active in service, 2 in reserve for high volume and shift changes, and I see nothing but growth. I think that private ambulance throughout the country is struggling, and this is probably the direction of the future.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Diego, your thoughts on the ambulance service?
Oh, yes. Obviously, the city adopted the ambulance to take over for us. No issue with that at all. When people pick the telephone up, the first thing they want is that ambulance to show up. We got to support the ambulance and whatever it takes to get them profitable, I should say, at least enough to cover the budget. Ms. Kent said, I believe they were going to bring in about $3 million this year. I believe the budget was about $3.8 million. We got to close the gap. We need this service 100%. What I would say is when you start talking about contracting out to the outside little donut towns around us, Owasco's paying $200,000 a year to have our ambulance out there providing service for them, but Springport is paying $26,000. That's an issue for myself personally, and it's nothing personal against Springport or any of the companies or the other towns, but it has to work for us as well. We can't be in the hole on the ambulance and what we're paying out. When it was privatized, it was definitely a different entity. There was no liability and there was no cost to the City of Auburn. That was a thing that stuck in my mind for a while. Once again, we've adopted this ambulance and we have to make it successful, and we can make it successful. I see that they used a different budgeting and billing service, and it's really come together all of a sudden. I got no issue with the ambulance at all. Like I said, when I picked that phone up, I hope they come and take care of my wife, kid, grandmother, whoever it may be. We just have to make them successful. And if it has to come down to looking at the budget and saying, hey, maybe we should try this or try that. It's an entity of the city. It's an important entity of the city. We just have to make sure that it's not going to be a losing entity for the city. That's a problem. Once again, then you're going to raise taxes and fees to cover the difference or use money out of the fund balance, which you don't want to have to do. They're not there to make money, but they're not there to lose money either.
Thank you, Mr. Diego. Mr. Cuddy, you have 2 minutes on the ambulance service.
Yes, thank you, Guy. I'm very proud to have been on the council that started this ambulance service. And as Councilor Kent mentioned earlier, that there was a lot of planning involved in that. And, you know, after a couple of years of really finding our stride, I do believe that the ambulance service has come into its own. Yes, we need, like everything else in our budget, we need to make sure that it is balanced and we're not losing money. But I agree with Mr. Diego. This is an essential service, a core service that the people of Auburn expect, and we're very proud to provide this service to the people of Auburn. And I just can't say enough about the professionalism and the work that they do every single day for the people of Auburn.
Thank you. Mr. Villano.
Absolutely. This is why people come to Auburn, and hopefully it draws more businesses to Auburn, is having this police, fire, and an ambulance service, you know, right in the city of Auburn to service the citizens here. The only issue I would have with the ambulance service is, obviously Craig touched on it, is we have to make it affordable, and it has to make money. We can't have a service that's losing money. Sitting through some of the budgets and look at some of the budgets, insurance claims are a lot different than revenue coming in. Okay, the two different things. You can put all the claims you want to in insurance, but we need the revenue coming in. I believe those got to add up, and it's got to cover the cost of that ambulance service to operate in the city. But I do feel strongly that having this ambulance service in the city is a great attribute to the citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Diego, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I'd just like to touch on what Joe just said. Definitely essential service for the city, and there's nobody that's going to argue that. But exactly what Joe just said, there's a huge difference between billing out, say, $3 million and collecting in $3 million. You have to make sure that whatever it takes, whatever company we need to use, whoever's going to do the billing, whoever's going to do the collection, that has to take place. We could bill out $5 million this year, and if you take in $1 million, you're still $2 million, $2.5 million, $2.8 million short. The reality of it is we just can't lose money on it. We have to find a way to make them successful, because a lot of people in the city need that service. Everybody needs that service. So we'd like to make sure that we can do something to make the ambulance successful, being that we adopted that in the city. There's no choice. You can't not help them. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start the way I saw people raising their hands. Mr. Villano first, then Councilor Kent.
I talked to a couple families, a couple individuals that moved from Syracuse to here in the city of Auburn, and that was one of the biggest draws that brought them into Auburn, was our police, fire, and then ambulance service. Talked to another individual from Rochester that moved, you know, into the city of Auburn, which is great. Bought a home, and he can't speak highly enough of what our services are in the city of Auburn.
Counselor.
I think I spoke to the same person. I just want to mention that here in Auburn, we consider the ambulance an essential emergency service, but it's not classified as such in New York State, and so it's not in line to get some of the funding that other essential services get. So we also need to talk to the state and lobby to have that change, because these folks are very important to the lives of all of us. So I just want to mention that in addition to what we've heard here, we have to make it an essential service. Thank you.
You have 1 minute, Mr. Cuddy.
Yes, Councilor Kent brought this up, and I just want to say that, you know, one of the things that this council does is that we advocate for the people of Auburn to our state and federal representatives, and that is something that, you know, you build relationships with the state, you build relationships with the federal government. Sometimes those relationships are strained because of the requests and that we have with the state might not fit in with their policies. But a lot of times, having that relationship, advocating for the people of Auburn, does help the people through grant money, through change in legislation, and there's a lot of topics that we're advocating for, some more successful than others. But this ambulance as an essential service is very important.
Thank you, Mr. Cuddy. Mr. Harding.
Shifting gears to infrastructure, the city uses, at least in recent years, the city has used a quadrant-based system for its road program, meaning streets in need of resurfacing are prioritized in a certain section of the city. But the city does have flexibility to add projects to this list, as it did with the recent North Street project. Do you favor this approach to the city's road infrastructure, or do you think it needs to be overhauled?
Mr. Diego, you're up first.
Thank
You
you.
have 2 minutes.
I'll start with how I talked about this road program earlier. I believe there was about $4.3 million available for the road program. Back in March, they had annotated 7 streets that they were going to pave this year. Mr. Harding stated that they can add on, which obviously is exactly what happened. The issue I have with that would be when we added on North Street on August 21st, North Street was annotated as, by the city engineering department in March, a failing road. There was 3 failing roads in Auburn, the Arterial, Lake Ave, and North Street, telling us that those are the 3 priority roads. We're not going to put the money, obviously, into the Arterial because the DOT is going to come in next year. The City Council has got that set up. They're going to fix the Arterial for us, so there wouldn't be any sense in going out and actually paving it with our own money at this point. Fixing the potholes, yes, I agree 100%. The North Street project definitely had to be done, 100%. My question is why wasn't it the first street that was listed in March? Why was it waiting until August before we decided we were going to do it? And then we removed 2 other streets, because as of today, we've only paved 5 streets in Auburn. That's the issue I have. If it's a failing street, according to the city engineers, then the first 2 streets I'm paving are Lake Ave and North Street, because they're considered a failing street. That's coming from the engineers department. I'd like to offer something different on it as well with the road program. I know that we're using money next year towards a bridge project. It got very expensive in the last couple of years, almost doubled. I understand that there's multiple ways to do it when you start talking about using that money for the roads. I know we're shuffling money to cover other projects, but I would use the maximum amount of money that we could possibly use to fix the roads, even if it meant cutting out patches and literally paving so that the potholes weren't as bad as they are. The roads are very, very difficult in the city. I'm glad they did North Street. Beautiful project. I'm glad it's done. I still think it should have been done, the first road. It was never placed on the list until August 21st.
Thank you, Mr. Diego.
Thank you.
Councilor Cuddy, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, to answer Mr. Diego's question as to why these funds appeared more in August, in March the state budget wasn't completed yet, and you know, we don't want to spend money we don't have in hand. So that's one of the reasons why it was extended, why we didn't have it listed as the priority. But once we were sure that the touring money was going to be there and that we could afford it with the state money, you know, that was, there was two you may remember the council, there were people from Lake Ave and there were people from North Street, and because of the, in that meeting I basically said, you know, because we're doing the standard Ave intersection, it makes sense to do North Street, and I'm really glad that we were able to do that. The intersection is just finished the other day, and North Street looks great. But that's one of the reasons why the funding was there in August, is because the state budget passed and we were able to do this. Going back to the quadrant program, I think it's a success, because when I first started on council, the amount of failing roads when the engineering department would give the presentation, there was lots of red roads, and that were failing. We've improved that over the years. Yes, the winters in central New York are very harsh. At the end of winter, like, you know, everyone's roads in central New York are in rough shape. But I think we do a good job in filling the potholes. We have a whole system where people can call in for the potholes. And this quadrant system has helped us maintain our roads.
Thank you, Councilor. We'll now hear from Mr. Villano on this issue of the quadrants and the road program.
Well, now it just goes back to the neighborhood development. If you got the roads with potholes and not being maintained, you know, people notice that, and it's not good for the citizen of Auburn. The allocating and shuffling money, I get it, but there should be a set amount of money. If a road needs to be fixed, it gets fixed. It seems like we wait too long until it gets to a part where it's really in a disrepair, where we should be on top of it immediately instead of waiting, you know, so long to fix the roads, or a road that needs to be fixed. That's my thought on it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor, on this issue of the quadrants and the road program.
So my understanding is, as Councilor Cuddy mentioned, that we addressed this systematically. Back in the day, the squeaky wheel got the oil. Some of the neighborhoods were accused of having priority, so some neighborhoods would be left and really never get fixed until it was desperate. That's gone. It doesn't mean we can't pull other roads front and center when there's an issue. That said, I want to say a couple of things about North Street. This council won't approve spending money unless we're sure we have it. So that's why we put North Street on the back burner until we had that touring route money guaranteed. And that was available to us through lobbying the state, and our Senator May and former Senator Mannion were instrumental in getting us that money, and we hope to have it every year. So I just want to mention it's really important. The relationship we have with the state is critically important in making sure we have funding. So thank you.
Okay, Mr. Diego, you'll have 1 minute.
Right. Yeah, I just like to touch back on Mr. Cuddy and Mrs. Kent. When you talk about saving money and stuff like that, when we were talking about the road program, you were saying that the money wasn't available back in March, but you listed the 7 streets that we were going to do. That was the first part that kind of caught me off, and that's why I keep questioning the timing of the North Street project. Nobody's arguing that it should have been done. It definitely needed to be done. Should have been done probably within the last couple of years. The issue I have when we keep talking about trying to save money is we went and repainted all the crosswalks and lines 2.5, 3 weeks before we paved it. Thousands and thousands of dollars we paid to do that, to rip the road right back up the end of August, beginning of September, and repave the road. It's a waste of services. You got several roads that weren't done. They were on the original list. A couple of them that aren't done now, but we paid the city workers to go down and change the water services. So now you have cutouts all over the roads where they changed the service from the curb out to the main line, but we didn't pave the road. My question would be, is when you talk about prioritizing roads, is Milligan Street, and it's nothing personal against there's 2 houses on that street.
We're going to give everybody 1 minute on this one. Right. Mr. Cuddy,
So
you have 1 minute.
Yes, only certain roads get access to that touring money, the state money. So that's why, you know, that's why North Street got the priority. Because we could use that touring money for it. The other thing, for better or for worse, sometimes states, like, our budgets are late. Sometimes their suggestions on how things are done and what time frame is done. So yes, are things dug up or painted and then redone later or in an inopportune time? Yes, but when all is said and done, we have a brand-new road, brand-new North Street. The intersection dovetails right into Standard Ave. So, I think with all the hiccups in here and there, it's well worth it, and that state money is where it should be.
Not seeing anybody wanted to chime in. If you'll hold on just 1 minute, I want to tell our viewers we're just about halfway through our Auburn City Council forum. We have all 4 candidates running for office. They're in the order that they drew lots for their opening and closing statements. There's Joseph Villano, who's on the Republican Conservative and People's Voice line. We have Ginny Kent, who's the incumbent. She's on the Democratic and Working Families Party line. Craig Diego, who is on the Democratic, not going to give you cross endorsements right now, Republican Conservative and People's Voice. And Terry Cuddy, who is an incumbent, who's on the Democratic and Working Families Party. It never ever works this way where we have you all broken up. This is an oddity in 10 years. Mr. Harding, you're up.
Great. I wanted to circle back to the budget since we,
Your microphone's off.
Mr. Harding.
this question will be for the incumbents on the budget, to circle back to that issue. You voted for the current budget when it was adopted in June. The budget increases the property tax levy while staying within the tax cap, and raised several fees, namely the refuse collection fee and ends free parking in the city garage. Why were those revenue raisers necessary to make this budget work?
And so that's for the incumbents, and then you're going to have a follow-up for the challengers?
That's right.
So how we'll do this is it'll be to Mr. Cuddy, and then Councilor Kent, and then go back to Mr. Harding, and then it'll be Mr. Villano, and then Mr. Diego, and then I'll figure out where we're going after that, okay? So, Mr. Cuddy, on this issue of revenue enhancers in the budget vote you took in June.
Yes, thank you. So obviously, there was some fee increases, and as Councilor Kent had mentioned, those fee increases were in line with the cost of those services, and you know, they were steep. I'm definitely going to admit that they were steep, but much like small cities throughout the country, we're experiencing double-digit increases in utilities, health insurance, and specific, you know, the cost of transporting refuse. So, you know, I think despite all of these kinds of double-digit increases that are happening beyond our control, you know, the city does a good job in absorbing those costs, trying to make the cost of living and the quality of life here more affordable. So, you know, the fees did increase, but that's how much they cost. I'm proud that we stayed below the tax cap. It wasn't easy to do because, you know, the costs are rising double digit, but I don't think we could have gone above the tax cap because it would be too difficult for the people of Auburn, and I'm proud that we did not do that. That being said, budget was a learning experience, and this current budget is something that we are watching very closely and working with our comptroller to keep costs down. We just had an update this past council meeting, and there's a few variables that are unknown, but I think by the middle of the year, we'll be ready to move from there.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kent, on this issue of your budget vote and revenue enhancers.
So I'm going to address the revenue, the refuse collection increase, which Mr. Harding mentioned. Here's the situation. We can't afford it. So prices have gone up, as Councilor Cuddy just said. There's no space left in landfill. We actually looked at the fees that other cities are charging, especially small cities around the state that have similar populations and other statistics. We also looked at the fees that are being charged by private trash haulers. We used to be way below those fees. It was a real deal here in Auburn. But the price of transporting your trash has gone way up, and it continues to go up. Even with the increase, we are still less expensive, and we still provide more than the other municipalities. Like, the other municipalities don't have the Monday yard waste, landfill days. Some of them will have a place where residents can go and take their yard waste, or a composting place. And this year, we're committed to taking a look at our current practices and find out what the community really wants. Maybe they don't want some of the things that we offer. We could go bare bones and maybe at least keep it at the level it is. So we're going to tighten up codes so that if there's people you drive by and you go, how are they getting away with all those cans in front? We're going to tighten up those codes, make sure that people are following our rules, and we're going to ask the community what it is they want. So maybe we'll have to give things up to keep it reasonable for our residents. Thank you.
Okay, then we're going to go to Mr. Harding for the challengers, and then we'll go from there.
Alrighty. So for Mr. Diego and Mr. Villano, as the challengers in this race, both of you have mentioned the need to cut spending. From the current budget, what is an example of something that you would cut, and do you believe the city's workforce needs to be slashed to achieve a balanced budget?
Okay, this is first for Mr. Villano for 2 minutes, and then Mr. Diego for 2 minutes.
Well, I believe the mayor just stated that there was nothing really to cut anymore besides personnel. And his article there in the paper when I read. That's the last thing you really want to do. I believe there's probably more item lines that could be cut. I don't have privilege to a lot of item lines that obviously Councilor Cuddy and Councilor Kent have. I believe there's ways to generate money. Nonprofit, that we have a majority of nonprofit housing in the city of Auburn. I believe there should be a public safety fee, city service fee. They receive all the services that I get when I pay my taxes. So I believe that we implemented an occupancy tax. Why don't we implement a tax on those nonprofits to bring money in? I know we lost a lot of money with the parking. You know, from 2019, I believe the COVID time and on, they were given 3 warnings, and I believe a lot of people took advantage of those 3 warnings, but now we're back down to 1 warning as July. I know personally that this guy writes probably $3,000 a week in warnings. So figuring out the numbers, which I've kind of dabbed into a little bit, we're losing probably $100,000 in revenue a year in parking. So there's those things I believe that we got to look at generating money. I don't want to see people losing their job. That's a big thing with me. I believe we got to sustain our services. This is why people live there in Auburn. This is why people come to Auburn. This is why we're going to bring more business to Auburn, because of the services we have. We start cutting them, cutting personnel, and then we're going to start losing our economic development and the neighborhoods and people coming here to live.
Thank you, Mr. Villano. Mr. Diego, on this issue of the budget.
Yes, I'm going to touch back on the question that Mr. Harding had asked Mr. Cuddy and Mrs. Kent, talking about the garbage real fast. Yeah, it definitely went up 44.9% for residential. If you own like an apartment complex, it's up almost 73.9% this year. The problem that we have with that is you have to pay for the service once again. We're not going to argue that that's what it is. People want their trash picked up. You throw it out on Monday night, you want them to pick it up Tuesday. That's what you're paying for. The issue I think I have with it is when I was going around door to door, I'll give you an example, and I'll name it by street. I'm down on Janet Street speaking to an older woman. She owns a side-by-side. She lives there by herself. She's in her late 70s. She says, my garbage is now $800 a year, and I put one bag out every other week, but because I own an apartment complex, I have to pay. I remember many years ago when they had talked about maybe charging per bag. That would, I believe, go into what Ms. Kent was saying about actually being able to keep track of what these people are doing. You don't want one guy putting out 15 bags and somebody else putting out 2 bags every month. That's an issue. As far as going through what would be cut, that word gets thrown around a lot, including, from the mayor last week, among other people. Nobody's talking about cutting jobs, cutting services, getting rid of people. But if you make a hardline stance and say the only thing left we have to do is cut, then I would flip that question right back to the current city council. What are you going to cut? You're saying you're going to try to keep taxes and fees down. You said today we're going to try to keep taxes in check. We're going to try to keep the taxes and fees down. But the only thing besides that is people. That's what they said. That's not what myself and Joe said. People like to continue to talk about that. Give me a line item budget of every single line item in the city of Auburn and let me sit down with every department head and I'll tell you exactly what I would take away from that, where I think that we could reduce some spending so we don't have to continue to tax people as much as we are.
Okay, before I ask you all, is there any follow-up from you? And then it's my turn now?
Yep. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Go ahead.
So we'll go with Mr. Villano for a minute, then Mr. Cuddy for a minute, and then if anybody else wants to, this Diego.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm sorry.
So you go ahead. You've got a minute.
To give the citizens an idea of what the raises, these are my line items. Okay, my city tax went up $404, refuge $160, library $13, school tax $359. County tax, I haven't yet received it, but I'm sure it's going to be in the 200 range. So basically, my yearly tax went up $1,184. Now, I could sustain that because I work 3 jobs, okay? But if somebody retired, paid off house, trying to sustain, trying to live, trying to keep that tax base for the city of Auburn, no way is anybody going to sustain these numbers. And if we're faced with the same financial situation that we could be next budget, it's going to be very difficult to draw people here to live. And again, it comes back full circle. It's going to be difficult to bring businesses here. Nobody's going to want to bring a business. It's already difficult enough to bring a business here without these numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Villano. Councilor Cuddy, you're up next.
So, one of the things we want to do is a few of the variables in this current budget that weren't really set yet. Some of the ways to bring in revenue that have yet to be tallied would be the cannabis revenue. That's new for us. Also, the occupancy tax is also new for us. So these are things that we're hopeful can help offset some of the increases in the budget and make sure that we remain on track. And the other thing is what we're doing for economic development, the movement with the Bombardier property, the movement with market rate housing, the movement with affordable housing. I think that this council is doing a good job in trying to position ourselves for the future and address some of the issues of some of the increases that not only Mr. Villano but all of us are dealing with. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, Mr. Diego, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm just going to circle back one more time to the refuge garbage. It's been a huge topic all year long, every person I've talked to. Going back to the landfill, and obviously it's water under the bridge at this time, but Mr. Talbot had stated would be in between the 18 to $20 million range. In the next sentence, he says that we're paying $2.2 million to maintain the landfill until 2038, over $33 million. We still owe $28.6 million on a landfill that's closed. The issue with that is you're actually paying more to keep it closed than you were to actually run it. When you start taking trash in from New York City and the other places like we did, thinking that we were going to make a lot of money on it, here we are now, the landfill's closed, and we continue to raise the refuge and garbage on the local people because we took in it from someplace else, and then we ended up closing the landfill because it's full. But when you still owe almost $30 million on a landfill that's not open, that's a problem.
Thank you. Ms. Kent, you have 1 minute on
Thank
this
you.
as well.
I'm just going to mention, in response to Mr. Diego's comment about the landfill, we can't do it. The price of trying to open a landfill now is enormous. I can't even imagine it. We now have new regulations that have to do with microplastics, and that's why people are getting out of the business of landfill. You can't do it any longer. I don't know of any city that's starting a landfill, so it's expensive to get out of it, again, because of the environmental issues. But unfortunately, we can't go back to the past. So I want to mention just a couple things about developing the budget. You're right, it was a very difficult season this year, and I looked at both our budget, what it looked like compared to past years, and I also looked at what was happening in other communities. And I know we keep hearing people are going to move away and they're not going to come here, but if you look at the budgets in the cities around the state, we're very comparable. So we're not way higher than them. We're pretty competitive with the other communities. So that's my comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go with Mr. Cuddy, then Mr. Diego. Mr. Cuddy, you have 1 minute.
So the one thing I wanted to say in response to Mr. Diego is that we ran out of space. We just couldn't expand. And obviously, the thing to do was to close it. If we had ample land and everything lined up, maybe, but we ran out of space. Some of the things that I've learned being on council is, if we're losing money and there's something that is continually dragging the money, and we're saving money when we close it, which I do believe that the landfill or the transfer station is, we're saving money by not having a landfill open. We're definitely doing that. We also, the cogen, even when we stopped using the cogen, we kept it going to try to recoup something. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses, and we're doing that, and that's what we do, cut our losses.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cuddy. Mr. Diego, then Mr. Villano, and we'll go from there.
I agree 100%. I just want to clarify something that Mrs. Kent had stated. I didn't say, let's go open another landfill. I stated that the amount of trash we took in from outside areas that weren't Auburn residents is the reason that it's full. That was the point I was making. I agree with Terry in a sense, but we're still paying more to keep it closed. That's where it's a problem, it's a difficult pill to swallow. I hear at the city council meetings, and I'm not trying to go against anybody on city council or the mayor, but when you continually say that we're making up for past administration's mistakes, there's multiple people sitting out of those 5 people that have been there for 10 to 12 years. It's not everybody else. We can't keep pushing on everybody else. Paying another $28.6 million on a landfill that's closed is very difficult to swallow. No room, like Mr. Cuddy said. I agree 100%. You can't do anything about it. It's just difficult. It's decision-making that was taking place earlier on in the administrations. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Villano, you'll have 1 minute.
Just to touch on what Mrs. Kent said there, I don't want to be comparable. I don't want Auburn to be comparable to other cities. I want when somebody's looking to move up in this area, they're going, I'm moving to Auburn. Or a business comes in here, I'm building in Auburn. I want my business in Auburn. That's what I want to see. I think we get into this mold and of, we're going to be comparable to this, to this, to this. I think, I don't want to be comparable to anybody. Just like our police department, our fire department, the ambulance service, the services we provide. I want us to have the best services, so when somebody's looking, they're going to move here. They're going to move to Auburn, New York.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Kent, you have the last 1 minute, and then we're going to bring Mr. Harding back.
It won't be a minute.
Okay.
I was only referring to the tax.
Yeah.
That's all I was referring to. Okay, thank you.
All right. Mr. Harding, welcome back.
Alrighty, let's talk about e-bikes. We have seen a proliferation of e-bikes in Auburn. For some, there is an obvious benefit. If they can't afford a car, they can use an e-bike for transportation to work or to go to the store. But there are safety concerns about how some have used e-bikes in Auburn. E-bike operators have been observed seemingly violating motor vehicle laws, while others have been seen using city sidewalks, including downtown. The state defers to local governments on this issue, so what should the city do to regulate how e-bikes are used to ensure they can remain a transportation option for users, but also protect other users of city streets and sidewalks?
Okay. So we're going to start over again. So Mr. Cuddy did answer the last question, the question raised first on the budget to him. We're going to start with Mr. Villano and then make our way through.
Well, to handle the issue, there should be an Auburn City Code. I'm sure the state's not going to pass legislation or state law about e-bikes at this point. I think there should be an Auburn City Code, or the city's going to have to start making those bike lanes on the the North Street, the Genesee streets, the state streets, the main roads. I know you're not going to do it on every street. It'd be unaffordable. But I believe there should be a municipal code and regulations on that. Now, the other issue is you got 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds running around on an e-bike. We're not going to go around and arrest 10, 11, 12-year-olds on an e-bike. So it is a big issue. And it's going to take, I think, a Auburn City Code, some sort of law, and then some sort of regulation to address the issues with the juveniles.
Not that we know any 12-year-olds who would like to do that. So, Councilor Kent, you're up on the issue of the e-bikes.
So that was one of the number one comments I got when I was knocking on doors, was people concerned about e-bikes. And the city sent two police department officers to training regarding e-bike regulations and guidelines recently. And we're actually investing in e-bikes for the police department, because apparently it's very difficult to pursue somebody in an e-bike if you're in a patrol car or on foot. So the police are going to probably report out to council on that shortly. We're also working on developing our own code, because the state said our code, what we say is one sentence, but it's up to the communities to make their own decisions about it. So that's in the works for next summer. And I just also want to mention the batteries that are associated with these vehicles are very dangerous. They have caused fires. They caused a major fire at a hotel on South Street. And so it's not just people riding the bikes, it's the information that the user has on how to store and charge their batteries. So it's a bigger issue. And I don't know about my friends here, but there have been at least there's been one time at the four-way stop on Franklin Street that I almost clipped someone on an e-bike that came out of nowhere right in front of me as I started into the intersection. So it's an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Diego, this issue on e-bikes.
Yeah, definitely an issue in the city. I agree with Mr. Villano, Ms. Kent. I'm sure Mr. Cuddy's going to be on board as well, as far as getting a policy in place as soon as possible. You don't want what happened out in Oswego, I believe it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, where the young man got killed. The truck hit him on the e-bike and he got killed. They drive around, all different areas. There's no regulations. There's got to be something in place to regulate this. You don't want to take the e-bikes away from the people that can't afford a vehicle also. Many people use them to get to work. They can't afford a vehicle. It doesn't mean that they don't have to follow the rules. I would even probably take it even an extent further, that there should probably be a age limit on e-bikes, being that some of these things go upwards of 30 miles an hour. That's fast. I mean, you guys know driving anything at 30 miles an hour, you're moving, you got kids driving down the street at 20, 25, 30 miles an hour with no helmet on. That's just a disaster waiting to happen. There's got to be something in place. I think part of the issue is that there's not enough police officers to actually do this at this time. I believe even with the 6 that just graduated the academy in the last week or so, there's still 7, 8 officers short. We got to get some funding together to make sure they're fully staffed. You don't want Officer Villano chasing a kid down on an e-bike when there's something happening, you know, like over the summer you had 2 shootings within 2 or 3 hours. That's obviously going to be the priority in the city, but I also don't want to, like Ms. Kent said, have somebody run into one of these people on an e-bike. It's a huge issue, not taking away anything from anybody, but it's got to be regulated like yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor, on this issue of e-bikes?
Yes, I agree with all the fellow candidates on this issue. You know, a policy, like a code. You know, we have a street legal for bicycles. You know, you go to the bike shop, they got to make sure that every bike that is repaired at the bike shop has the reflectors, and obviously a lot of these e-bikes don't have reflectors. The operators aren't wearing helmets. You know, so there definitely needs to be a code in place. The other thing is that we, you know, we're trying. I did bring this up in council a few weeks ago, and as Councilor Kent had mentioned, this is definitely a real topic when going door to door, and that the manner in which several operators are speeding on the sidewalks is a cause for real concern. So I believe that the steps that the city manager, by sending the 2 officers to the training, is good, and hopefully, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing an Auburn police officer on an e-bike pulling somebody over for violating the codes that will be in place.
So let me just say this. I think there's 2 13-year-olds and a 15-year-old that I know of that are not going to have any luck getting an e-bike.
No way.
Okay. And I don't know about the 4-year-old. So anyway.
Not for a long time. Not for a long time.
Mr. Harding.
It's been stated that some of our largest employers are in need of better housing options for their employees. There is also the problem of vacant homes that become eyesores in the city's neighborhoods. What should the city be doing to encourage housing development, whether it's the construction of new housing or rehabilitating these blighted properties?
Councilor Kent, you're up first. You have 2 minutes on housing.
So Auburn needs housing for every income level. Lack of affordable housing is the #1 cause of homelessness today. And for working families, rent can cost between 30% and 50% of their household income. Market rate housing creates more options for people seeking professional level positions within our community, and options for people who build wealth here in the city and want to upgrade their housing within their own community. The City of Auburn is a certified New York State pro-housing community, which commits us to enact policies, streamline permitting for various housing projects, and support fair housing. So what's going on in the city right now? We're collaborating with Cuddy County, we mentioned this earlier, on a 70-unit market rate housing complex to be built near Bluefield Manor. It's including a pickleball court right now. I don't know if that's going to stay with it. We are collaborating with Housing Visions on an application that is currently awaiting funding from New York State for affordable housing and permanent supportive housing to be built on State Street, Fort and Westlake, and on Venice Street. We know that the Rescue Mission is likely to receive housing funding to build a homeless shelter on Grand Avenue, which will provide security and support services for our homeless population. And finally, we are collaborating with the Housing Authority on neighborhood revitalization and home ownership initiatives, including properties that are under renovation on Barber Street. And I want to just go back to the homeless shelter. I want to clarify that if we have a homeless shelter, then we have a place with programming for homeless folks that are now in our hotels. And that's really important point to make because it's difficult to manage hotels for tourism, for the homeless population, for the neighbors, and I'm hoping that this will help solve the problem of homelessness in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Diego, you have 2 minutes on this issue of housing.
Hey, Mr. Harding, can I have you read the last part of that question again, please?
Yeah, what should the city be doing to encourage housing development, whether it's the construction of new housing or rehabilitating these blighted properties?
I appreciate it, thank you. Yeah, we definitely need housing. Speaking on what Mrs. Kent just spoke of, that down near Bluefield Manor, don't quote me on this, I believe that's the one that they were speaking of. They thought that Micron employees may eventually come here if it's built. The part that I have a problem with that is, if I'm speaking correctly, is that rent was $1,700 to $3,000 out there. I don't think that that's affordable for anybody, no matter what your job is at this point. I could be wrong, but that was the numbers that I was given, and I believe it was in the newspaper. As far as the nonprofits coming in, for the homeless shelters, you have to take care of the homeless shelters. The number has got to be astronomical, how much money is being paid out for these hotel rooms every single day. And like Mrs. Kent said, there's no programming. They're sitting in a hotel room, basically just hanging out, doing nothing. There's nothing to do. It's not like you're any type of service or program. I'd like to see, if anybody wants to continue to build these homeless shelters or low income, it'd be nice if it wasn't all nonprofit. That's part of the issue, and that's nothing Mr. Cuddy or Ms. Kent can do. It is what it is. If those are the people that want to invest in the city, but when you're talking putting up a $25, $30 million, $70 million building, but it's not on the tax rolls, that's a lot of money. So that would be something, it'd be nice to be able to have investors in the area. I know there's some investors that have a lot of property in the city. As far as the vacant houses, once again, that's something that I'll go back to, like I said earlier, you could actually sell those for pennies on the dollar to people in the community. You're always going to vet the person first to make sure it's not the same landlords that aren't up to codes. You definitely want to make sure you're getting good people, but to get those houses built and re-rented or whatever they would like to do to them and put them back on a tax roll would be huge for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diego. Councilor Cuddy, on this issue of housing development.
Yes, I think the affordability is definitely an issue. The price at which properties are selling for in Auburn is surprising. And again, you could look at it in a positive way, but obviously, it is tough for people to maintain, the rents. So we have been collaborating with several organizations, many of which that Ms. Kent or Councilor Kent has mentioned. Housing Visions. We've collaborated with Rescue Mission for the affordable housing. This 70-unit market rate. The development near Bluefield Manor. I know that that Mr. Diego said that those rents seem high, but it's in a way it seems in line with what the rents for market rate housing is. So if we are going to attract people that are going to be working at Micron or Cuddy Milk Ingredients, places that are already here, it's places like this proposed market rate housing that's going to attract those workers to this area.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Villano.
We got a great opportunity right now, I think, with the rate of the housing market is, increased significantly, especially what houses are going for outside the city of Auburn. I think this is an opportunity to draw people into the city now, especially into the, maybe the lower income areas. They could pick up a house for $150, $160 in that range. All right, obviously up by the college here, it gets a little expensive, but I think this is an opportunity where I feel if we incentivize somehow, police, fire, get into the hospital with the hospital workers, nurses, the houses that the city do own, get them in there to purchase these places, to get this on a tax base. I know Ginny talked about the homeless shelter on Grand Ave. I completely disagree with putting the homeless shelter in those areas. I think it depreciates the value of the houses in that area, and now we start losing more tax base. I believe we need a homeless shelter. I believe we need it somewhere where it's not going to affect a tax base in a community, town, or village. That's a whole different conversation where to put this homeless shelter.
Thank you. Ms. Kent, you'll have 1 minute.
So I just wanted to touch on the idea of the market rate being high for the housing complex they're talking about on the west side near Bluefield Manor, for example. I do agree those rates are high, but over the years, one of the things I have heard, this is just an example, you know, a new physician will move here, maybe they'll rent an apartment at Logan Loft, and then they will buy a home in Marcellus, or somebody from Newcore comes from the far west and they'll buy a home in Camillus. We haven't had enough market rate housing options to attract people to come in and pay those higher prices. But with the Cuddy Milk Ingredients and their growth, we've got a huge increase in employees out there. So I expect that there will be an influx of people that are looking for that kind of housing. And so I have high hopes that this will bring, so we really need to have all socioeconomic levels in our community to make it work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Diego, were you?
I didn't say.
Mr. Diego, you get 1 minute.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely agree with Mrs. Kent. I just don't think at this time, and I'll keep going back to the same one, I hope Micron just explodes and everybody and their brother gets a job there and they would like to come here. Part of the issue is once again, it started in 2022. They haven't even put a shovel in the ground yet. Mr. McMahon over there has done, obviously, his homework. This actually was created around 2018. In his last interview, he stated that he started buying up every piece of property they could around there so that people would have some place to stay and live, just like Mrs. Kent and Mr. Cuddy said. I think he's way ahead of us, unfortunately, at this point. Nothing that we could do about it. He had the inside track 7 years ago. It is what it is. I definitely would love to see more housing. I'm just not sold. You're talking $1,700 for a one-bedroom apartment, you know, starting rent. My house, literally my mortgage with taxes included, that's triple what I paid for my house, and I have, you know, a very large house. So it's just a little bit out of the price range for this area right now, unless somebody actually comes in that makes a large amount of money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Harding, you have a minute question. So everyone's going to be given a minute. So Jake is going to hold up 30 seconds when they're done. So we stay on track and I don't get signs from up in the control room.
All righty. So I wanted to talk about NYSEG. For Auburn residents, NYSEG's proposed rate plan would provide a double whammy. Not only would utility rates increase, but the company wants to close its walk-in office in the city. As a local representative, what would your message be to NYSEG and the State Public Service Commission about how these rates and the office closure would affect Auburn?
Mr. Diego, you're up.
Yes. Yeah, that's very, very simple. There's not one person that's not affected by the gas and electric rates. They had gone up over 30% in the last 3 years. Appreciate the City Council writing a letter a few weeks back, you know, basically in a strong word condemning them for trying to raise it again. I disagree 100%. That's what happens sometimes when you have a company that is no longer owned in the United States. You got an overseas company that owns it. They're going to do what they want, and that's the problem. My personal opinion is this has got to be a bipartisan thing. We have to get senators, assemblymen, congressmen, everybody. It's not Democrats, it's not Republicans. Everybody's got to get together and work with this thing and try to do something. I don't know how you can block it. It'd be great, but looking at another 25, 30, 35% going up in the next 3 years, people can't afford the bills now. It's definitely got to come to a head at some point. 200% against any NYSEG raise for anybody at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Diego. Councilor Cuddy, on this issue of the NYSEG rate increase and closure.
Yes, I mean, I talked about this earlier. You know, sometimes the state is our friend, sometimes the state isn't our friend. You know, there are organizations like the Public Service Commission. The name is Public Service Commission. And it's really in their hands to determine whether these fees are acceptable. I hope that they see what this is doing to the people of New York and don't allow NYSEG to do that. It's their job to not allow that, to go back to NYSEG and make sure that we're protected in the public service and not raise our rates. Yes, we send a letter, we're on City Council, we do that advocacy. Same thing with the Department of environmental conservation. We want them to protect our water, but again, we can only advocate, and we hope that they live up to their name. Public Service Commission, Department of Environmental Conservation, we need them to serve the people of the state and in the city.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Villano, this issue of the NICEAG closure and rate increase.
Well, I went to that meeting. I know Councilor Kent was at the meeting, the Horse and Pony Show, with the two lawyers that listened to our complaints. Okay, you're talking about a $100 billion company. I don't think they care what Joe Villano in Auburn, New York thinks. The good part is we got Josh Riley, a congressman, a Democrat congressman out of Ithaca. He's trying to push this legislation, Keep the Lights Local Act. That means no foreign company could come in and buy a utility company in the country. You know, and then you got Paul Bologna. He's another assemblyman. He wants to do a 5-year moratorium for the electrify New York. Okay, I think we kind of did it to ourselves. This is why they're raising the rates. So, and obviously it does. It's going to affect economic development in our city if we don't find an answer to this.
Councilor Kent, you have 1 minute.
Well, they've said it all. I really can't. I was going to mention Josh Riley. I just want to remind people that when you have private companies such as gas and electric, they have a CEO, they have a COO, they have a board of directors, they have investors, and they're not going to take money from them. They're having us all share the cost that keeps going up. And you can apply that to a lot of like health insurance companies. I'm not going to go, you know, on a podium and start talking about that, but I just want to remind people that when you pay your tax bill, as high as it may feel, when you walk out the door of City Hall, you're seeing your tax money right there with streets plowed in the winter, with a police vehicle going by to help somebody. That's your money. We don't make money off it. It goes right into services. That's probably the most important bill I pay every year. Although I do need my electric and gas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. We're now going to turn to closing statements. You each have 2 minutes. We're going to start in reverse order of the opening statements. We're going to start with Councilor Cuddy, who's an incumbent. He's on the Democratic and Working Families line. Mr. Cuddy.
Yes, I'd like to thank my fellow candidates for a civil debate, civil forum today. Thank you, Guy, Robert, and the CCC Telecom for hosting this forum. The people of Auburn have a very important choice to make this election year. They can choose experienced, dedicated officials who believe in local government, leaders like Ginny and me, who have followed through on long-term goals of improving our city, whether it be roads and water infrastructure, revitalization of our downtown, our parks and recreation programming, and economic development, positioning Auburn to be a destination. We now have new goals to see the city succeed in the future. We also have challenges ahead. One thing that we don't need is negativity from the outset. We have enough strains from cuts at the federal level and don't need to concede that here. Everyday Auburnians rely on what we work so hard to provide for them. Once these services disappear, it becomes harder and harder to get them back. Before I started on council, our fiscal house was a mess. We had no comptroller watching our finances. Many services like the summer rec program had been cut. It took us 8 years of working hard to get that summer rec program back. This is just one example of countless services that have been reinstated and improved under our watch. This city can't afford to go backwards. This is why Ginny and I are asking for your vote this election season to continue the steady and proven leadership to help provide the services that make this city great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cuddy. We'll now turn to Craig Diego, who's on the Republican, Conservative, and People's Voice party lines.
Thank you.
Mr. Diego.
Although there's been a lot discussed and disputed here today, there's some things that can't be disputed. the continual raising of our property taxes and fees and the people that voted for the increases. Since Mr. Cuddy was elected to City Council, property taxes have increased 25.8%, sewers up 5%, water fees up 63.5%, service fee on the water bills up 1,110%, garbage fee just there alone, this year alone, is up 44.9%. If you own an apartment complex, it's up 73.9%. When Mr. Cuddy was elected, there was no garbage fee at all. Even more incredible is the fact that Mr. Cuddy has voted for every single budget, tax, and fee increase since being elected, never once voting against any of those increases in his 12 years in office. Since Mrs. Kent was elected, it's the same story. Property taxes up 13%, sewers up 5%, water's up 27.9%, garbage is up 66.6%. And just like Mr. Cuddy, it's been a yes vote on every tax, fee, and budget since she's been elected in the last 4 years. The facts are the facts, and the voting records confirm this. Let that sink in for a minute. We have to pay for services and fees. Every single budget, every single tax increase, every single fee increase has been a yes vote. That's what sometimes happens when there's nobody else to bring a different voice to the city council. When you have 5 of one demographic running the city, everybody agrees with each other. Year in and year out, the burden of the higher taxes are placed on the city residents. As Mr. Cuddy just stated, you should vote for steady and proven leadership. At this point, the steady and proven thing is that they can raise taxes and fees year after year. I agree with them when they talk about positive change, because that's exactly what's needed, positive change in leadership. At this point, the positive change that needs to take place is to elect myself and Mr. Villano so we can bring a different voice to the city council. It's time for change so we can have a transparency to deliver an efficient, effective government to the people of Auburn while providing services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diego. We'll now go with Councilor Kent, who's on the Democratic and Working Families Party line.
Thank you, Guy, Robert, Telecom Department for today's forum. A key role of any city is to meet the needs of its residents through core services, things we sometimes take for granted because they're running smoothly, like fire, police, and ambulance service, public works, water and wastewater management, zoning and code enforcement, to name a few. Our quality of life depends on how the city chooses to do this, and so does our ability to support and attract jobs and businesses, provide a positive experience for tourists, and encourage people to move to our city. And we owe it to our taxpayers to do everything in our power to provide these essential services at a cost they can afford. This is our great challenge, to achieve that balance in a world where everyone is experiencing increases. Terry and I will work hard to find that balance. We're also going to work hard to continue to protect Owasco Lake. I look forward to representing the City of Auburn on the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council to fulfill the city's legal mandate to provide safe drinking water. I also look forward to working on update of the Auburn's comprehensive plan. This plan will require voices from our community, and I invite everyone to answer the call to participate. Terry and I will always have your best interests in mind. We will work with our colleagues on council to keep Auburn moving in the right direction. I need your support on November 4th. Please vote for me for Auburn City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. We'll now turn to, for a final closing statement, Joe Villano, who's on the Republican, Conservative, and People's Voice lines. Mr. Villano.
Yeah, I want to thank Guy for the opportunity here, Robert, for the questions, the college staff, thanks. I might come back to college and be a camera operator when this is over. I'm grateful for this opportunity to share the stage with a group of candidates that all have the same goals in mind, making our city the best place it can be. I also appreciate the chance to answer your questions and share a bit about who I am and why I'm running. I'm proud to be an Auburnian, and I'm not going anywhere. I want my kids to feel the same pride that I do living in Auburn. I want our city to be financially strong, physically safe, and full of opportunity. I want Auburn to continue to grow, prosper, and thrive, and for every resident to be proud of what we've built together, stronger together. Thank you again for the support, and please remember to vote for myself, Craig Diego, for early voting on October 25th or on November 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Villano. Thank you, all 4 of you, for putting yourselves out there. Not always an easy task every couple of years, but good luck in the next 2 weeks. We want to also thank Mr. Harding The good news is that, well, the bad news is Mr. Harding didn't get through 7 of his questions. The good news for him is he's got another 2 weeks to talk to you all about those. So, Mr. Harding, thank you again for doing both forums. We appreciate that. We also want to thank you, the viewers, for tuning in over the last hour and a half to hear the 4 candidates for City Council. You can vote for, if you live in the City of Auburn, you can vote for them on November 4th, obviously, but early voting does start this Saturday on the 25th, and you are able to do that. We will return this Tuesday with our normal programming. Cuddy Community College President Brian Durant will be here, just a heads up to all the students in the room. And the new Executive Director of the Auburn Downtown Business Improvement District, Jesse Klein, will be here as well. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cuddy Community College. Thank you for watching. Have a great evening. We will see you back here in the studio on Tuesday, and please remember to vote. All right, so you're still on for a minute. You can take your mics off.